Welcome back to Just in Our Minds. I'm your host, Justin, and today we're going into another solo podcast. We're going to speak about everything. We have 25 questions total. It's going to be everything: nutrition, mindset, lifestyle, and some of the BS side of nutrition and fitness.
What's the biggest mindset mistake people make when trying to, quote unquote, get in shape?
I think the biggest mindset mistake when people try to first start getting into shape is they create this big, scary line in front of them. They don't let themselves just get to the gym. They make 10,000 excuses on what they're not doing. And like they have this idea of, it could be real, but the fat kid in the gym. So it's touching the doorknob. It can be anywhere. It could be me going back to jujitsu or MMA or, Travis starting to run again, whatever it is. We just think of the worst case scenario. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes people have is they think people are watching them. They think everybody's looking at them. They get this victim mindset or this self-centeredness that just kind of catapults them in the wrong direction. So the biggest thing is just remember, no one cares, no one's watching you, and to make sure to take that first step, at least touch the doorknob and get into the gym.
This is a good one because I know you talk about this a lot. Do you think motivation is overrated? And if so, what actually replaces it?
Yeah, I do think motivation is a spell we can cast on ourselves. Don't get me wrong, motivation's great if you can tap into it, ride that wave right into the shoreline. But if we're relying on motivation, it's a good and easy way to not get the thing done. Most successful people are technically not motivated. They just have enough grit and tenacity to get the job done.
How do you train your mind differently now compared to when you first started?
Well, I realized that I don't need to be fire all the time. And for me, I would always create these weird stories in my head about this or that, or some person at the gym, or me not being as strong as I was, or me not being able to do a rep, or this, that, or the other. So now I try to have a blend of the water and fire in my mind. Like if I know I'm not sleeping well, I'm not going to push as hard that day. I think some people have a tendency to feel like they lost time or they're not caught up to where the version of themselves. They feel like they're in this perpetual cycle of being a step behind. So if you give yourself grace and you have empathy for yourself, then you can make sure that you show up for yourself that day. So for me, it wasn't working out harder. It was taking days off and giving myself rest. So just learning how to have awareness and where you're sitting at. If you have a knee injury, maybe don't push the legs. And you have tomorrow to get things done too, but try to show up. So if there's a day that I know I need to at least go to the gym, I'll go to the gym and stretch to check the box. So then you don't skip a day and then another day and another day. So still go, but maybe have empathy for yourself and awareness on what you're doing.
What's a mental habit that separate elite athletes from everybody else?
I think a mental habit that separates elite athletes from everybody else is not letting the mind control what the body's doing. The body's capable of crazy feats of strength, and then it goes in the opposite direction too. Once you can strengthen the mind and get past the pain, you're going to be able to level up. Professional athletes have been doing it for a long time, and they've got over the fear of breaking the glass ceiling. And they always want one more rep. They always want one more minute. And it translates to anywhere in life. That's why if you see a lot of these pro athletes can also do really good in business or anything else that they hyperfixate on and apply their skill set to. So I would say just the difference between the pros and the amateurs are work ethic.
Have you ever had to unlearn a hardcore mentality to actually perform better?
Well, here's a fun thing. I like to post my arm for jujitsu, and I've took 2 weeks off. Well, I guess not full 2 weeks off, but I've taken less jujitsu in my life, or taken less classes right now. I was letting my neck repair. This goes across the board for me. I tend to use strength and strength and stubbornness is the word I'll use. And so if you can lean back into technique, whether even if it comes into business, filming, or anything else, there's always going to be a fast way of doing things and the way you're used to. So for me, I have to back off my athleticism and my stubbornness and lean more into technique. And that goes across the board for anything. That could be from making reels, that could be from conversations. Bad habits come in all forms. And that could be the likes, the the lack of sleep, watching a TV show too late when you know you need to go to bed. For me, though, it's posting my arm. I was rolling with our homie, David Allred, up at his Park City place yesterday, and I took a couple weeks off. I wasn't paying attention to my bad habits. So we'll tap into the awareness too. And just have the awareness. And also, like when it comes to certain things, film yourself. Film yourself doing something and learn from a professional, and then you'll see, or in some way, and then you'll see where those bad habits lie. I'll just add that too before I end this rant.
At what point does pushing harder become counterproductive?
Oh, that was a fun one.
For some reason, okay, let me ask that one more time. At what point does pushing harder become counterproductive?
So pushing harder becomes counterproductive, and this goes into the subject that I talked about in prior podcasts. It's the difference between the grind culture and the flow culture. Most pro athletes, although push themselves hard as hell, or most high earners, there are going to be some that burn themselves out and they tap out at their 30s. You'll see a lot of bodybuilders die at 50. What happens is if you redline all the time, your nervous system is in survival mode. So if you can blend the combination of recovery and like your tenacity, I guess that's the word of the day that we're using, to understand when your body needs rest, because I'd say most people either are. There's two categories. There's people that are overworking, that we're trying to chase that dragon, or trying to feel like we're behind. We're trying to catch up to this imaginary timeline for our lives and our fitness goals. And then like I see it with fighters, bodybuilders, myself especially, is if you're underslept, you can overwork yourself. There is overstimulation of the nervous system, and your body can't repair from it. So your cortisol levels are going to spike. You're going to feel like crap. You're going to want to do more nicotine pouches, more caffeine, less sleep, and it's going to be catastrophic. You're going to start noticing you're going to get angry, sad, or depressed, or a combination of the three, and that's because you're not giving yourself the rest needed. And that can come with social media, TV, anything that overstimulates your mind and your nervous system.
How has your definition of being in shape evolved over time?
Well, oh, no, I'm just kidding. So there's a difference between being fit and being healthy. Being fit, you can be dehydrated on diuretics, eating the wrong things, have massive inflammation, function only off coffee, or caffeine, and just always crush yourself in the gym, lifting too heavy of weights for your nervous system. What I mean by that is a lot of people, when you first go to the gym, you're just going to go. You don't know to add electrolytes into your water. You're trying to drink more water. You're eating healthy things, but most people treat themselves to bad habits. But I'll skip that for now. So the big difference, I think, from being fit and healthy, being fit is creating something that's an exterior part of your body, and having real health and wealth, in my opinion, is going to be doing the inner work too. So like some form of meditation, having a good sleep schedule, our sleep hygiene. It's called also drinking high quality water with electrolytes, using stuff like creatine and amino acids, and then eating like 80-20 clean diet. Those will be a big difference. So when I used to pinprick people's fingers and I did nutritional microscopy under a doctor's supervision, one of the big things I'd see for fit people is they have massive inflammation. They look great, but they have a lack of range of motion because they just keep building up big muscle groups. And they lose their range of motion. Their bodies don't function the way they should with all that muscle. A lot of people have sleep apnea. Women are cutting their calories too much and cutting their carbs, and they're having hormonal imbalances. You can see it a lot with women start developing acne here. On top of that, they're on SSRIs and hormone replacement or whatever else. So your body's not producing what it should, but it looks like it's very functional. And what that is I call that a pavement princess. You see these big jack girls look really fit looking, or big jack girls and guys. They look really strong. They're really good at putting their butt on platforms and taking pictures with duck faces. But when it comes to like running, jumping, climbing, swimming, and crawling, they're going to get injured. They could deadlift large amounts of weights. They could do every glute bridge known to man, but they don't have core function. Then now we're getting deep in the weeds. They don't have core function, and they don't know how to stabilize their body from their spine outward. They lose spine function. We're seated a lot, and then we go to heavy weights. So as I go try to pull back a little bit so this makes a little more sense. Most people are building a lot of muscles, but they lose track of function, and they're not hydrated properly, and their sleep's off. So that's fit. They look great, but they don't feel well. They're always low energy. And so if you want to be healthy and have the physical wealth necessary for somebody to have the longevity and not get injured as much, I would go lower weights, moderate rep ranges, somewhere in the hypertrophy phase. You can do more body weight stuff, and then learn how to utilize your hip flexors and your shoulders, and get our range of motion back, and then just prioritize hydration and sleep, and maybe work out 3 or 4 times a week. I was trying to find a place to stop that. That's going to be a long-winded one, but we're here for it.
Yeah. The next one is basically what you talked about. Do you think most people are chasing aesthetics at the expense of actual health?
Yeah, I think it's a lack of knowledge or a choice, tunnel vision approach. It just like with doctors or anybody else, politicians, all these people, you can have real big egos, and they don't want to unlearn things that they've learned for years for the sake of being wrong or having the idea of people critiquing them or whatever that may be. Because I've been on both sides of that coin. Even just recently for me, I had to relearn and go back into more, because even with my mobility and everything I have, I'm good, being better at. I started developing an anterior pelvic tilt again. It's for a couple reasons. Me trying out nicotine pouches again, I think, it's tightened my ligaments and dehydrated my muscle tissue, and it caused vasorestriction. So my blood vessels and everything isn't getting the blood it should, and then my blood vessels are tightening up. And my seat in my car causes anterior pelvic tilt because it has a natural lumbar curve. So I had to reduce that, find to adjust my seat, and then pay attention to my posture. And the last 3 years, I've been sitting way more than I ever have. So I have to have the awareness and readjust my movement patterns and pull my ego out of it, and realize sometimes you could preach to the choir, but there's days that even you feel like an imposter or hypocrite. So then I think with some people, though, they rely so much on machines and heavy weights that they lose track of how to actually feel the contraction and function of their body.
What does sustainable fitness look like for someone who's not really trying to be like an elite athlete, just a normal person?
Sustainable fitness, to me, depending on your goals, I always say for individuals is just to become a dynamic human. And the biggest thing is learning the knowledge to help with sleep, maybe using blue blocker glasses, limiting your mental stimulation early in the morning and in the evening. And then just starting with walks. Go for walks. You can do a lot of workouts seated. It's okay to start with machines. Try to hit every muscle group at least once a week, and just stop making excuses for everything. With some parents, they always make excuses of keeping bad food in the house, and they say it's for their kids, or they blame their job all day and they don't have time. So just learn how to prioritize your health, and then start learning and absorbing. It's a deep sea out there for nutrition and for movement, but I would say look in the direction of those that are healthy in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. They're some of the old school bodybuilders had it tapped in, but you don't have to just lift heavy. I feel like a lot of people go towards bodybuilding naturally, and it's not wrong. It's not a right or wrong, but there's methods to the madness, and a lot of people don't do the accessory work and things. So I would just say start slow, go 3 days a week, maybe 4. And then I would honestly do a blend of general weightlifting, walking, hiking, and whatever range. You don't have to go climb a mountain. You could just find a hill, walk up the hill, and some sort of mobility like yoga, or just find a mobility on YouTube or something like that you can understand.
How do you balance intensity with recovery as you get older?
So I also use peptides now, BPC 157, TB 500. They're not for everyone. I take pride in limiting my synthetic supplements and things. I mean, supplements in general are mostly synthetic, but I try to stay pretty whole food based. But for me, what I do to limit um, my intensity nowadays, even though there's some days where I do 3 workouts a day still, I'll try to take a day off or a day in between. And the biggest thing is learning to listen to your body. Because if you're super tired, you're super fatigued, you're sore, it's okay to take a day in between and to slow things down. Any day I'm like that, I'll just walk or I'll do a jog, or something that's like zone 2, which means like you're on the brink of sweating and you can do it for 30 minutes, but you can hold a conversation, but you have to take a breath every once in a while. And yeah, so I would say just feel your body out and don't rush the process. Just find it's okay to be 1% greater every day or 1% better rather than thinking you need to get everything done in every day, every week. So just gradually, for me, um, let's see, because I'm getting a kind of off topic there, but yeah. So the biggest thing is like just making sure that you, once again, we'll go back to the awareness, having the awareness of how your body feels. And it's super easy for new people to come in and overtax their body in the gym. So just leave it to a couple movement patterns. And then for me, if I know I have a hard workout, I'll give myself a recovery day in between and I'll work more on accessory work and mobility. And then I'll give myself that day. Before I used to do 7 days a week. And then I would just utilize more caffeine, but it just taxes your nervous system and it messes with your hormones and it's going to mess with your sleep. So just remember, recovery is a big one.
What's one nutrition belief that's widely accepted, but just completely wrong?
One nutrition belief I feel like that's widely accepted and is completely wrong is not everybody needs a crazy amount of food every day. You don't need a crazy amount of protein all the time. Don't get me wrong. Most people are amino deficient and you do need protein. But I would say start off with whatever your lean body mass is. That you can do an in-body scan, you can do a DEXA, but having the metrics to understand, like I have a Whoop strap on, so like having a little bit of data to understand like how many calories you're burning and how much protein to have is because everybody's gut's different, and without gut health and your gut, I guess we could even talk about gut health a little bit. So just making sure that we're cutting out more processed foods and putting in healthier, like 80% whole foods that'll help repair your gut if you're not leaning into more like a gut cleanse or getting deeper in the weeds. So I would say something that's underutilized is gut health, and then something that's overutilized is trying to eat a ton of calories and doing dirty bulking because you're probably causing more inflammation. So I would say try to find some sort of metrics to get a DEXA body scan, in-body scan that's at a lot of these gyms, and then maybe invest in an Aura ring that goes on your finger, or they have these Whoop straps or an Apple Watch, and those metrics will give you a better idea so you're not rearranging your furniture in the dark.
Do you think people overcomplicate nutrition? And if so, why?
I am the people. I used to complicate nutrition and try to hit everything. There's so much information out there. We have so many influencers, creators, Huberman, all these different people. Not hating on Huberman. Huberman's great, but I would say just go with the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. If you know you're eating too many fucking donuts, lay off the donuts. If you know you're not drinking water, drink more water. If you know you're not going to the gym or doing anything at all, put your phone down, turn off Netflix, and go for a walk. To burn calories and to eat food, food is fuel, and it should be fuel. But processed food is not fuel. That is a very low fuel source. And so the biggest and easiest way is to make sure that you're eating more food that's real food and making sure you're burning those calories in some way or another. And then just trying to make things fun.
What role does discipline versus flexibility play in your diet today?
I stopped giving myself the excuse that I'm going to treat myself to poison. That was a big one. Having a flexible, so it's all about sanity. So for you, if you've been eating pizza and you always treat yourself to alcohol on the weekends, or cookies or milkshakes or whatever it is that gets your gears going or slows them down technically and gunks them up. But I would say having a flexible diet, if we're talking about flexibility in eating, you have to have some sort of sanity. So if you need a couple slices of pizza on Saturday, go for it. The 80-20 rule, even 70-30 at the beginning. If you're doing 70% better on your nutrition throughout the week and you have a cookie after your workout, or you have pizza on the weekend, or you still, instead of drinking 6 days a week, you're drinking 2 or 3, that makes the world, as long as you're not making up for that lost time in those 2 days of drinking. But if you can just make steps forward to creating discipline, at the beginning, you're going to need a little bit of flexibility. The percentage of people that can go cold turkey and do the 75 hard and do all these things, it's a small number. And then after those 75 days, like, learn how to do 365 hard. That's the big one. But once again, I said that 1% rule. Eat one less cookie. Drink one more glass of water. Eat one more handful of protein. So getting back on protein, if you can have 3 palm sizes of protein throughout your day of some source, and if you're vegan or something like that, use Keon or one of these vegan-based amino acids to where you get more aminos, because you need amino acids. Those are the building blocks to your whole body. There's an amino acid for every single process in your body, where it comes to sleep, movement, brain synapses. Like creatine and amino acids help a ton. But yes, so having flexibility and scaling up your ability to have discipline. Just try to get 1% more disciplined a day, and then you have that's 7% per week, and then eventually you're going to be far more disciplined. It's not about going cold turkey. It's about replacing your bad patterns with healthier patterns. And for all those years that you built up those negative patterns, it's going to take you a couple months to a year to build up positive ones.
How do you approach food when you're not in like fight camp or peak mode, elite training?
For me nowadays, it's a way of life, and it's not just a conscious habit to not eat. Oh, I can't eat McDonald's or this or that. I used to eat all that stuff. Don't get me wrong. Like Little Debbie's, they still talk dirty to me, but I know how it's going to make me feel afterwards, and it's not worth it. Same with alcohol and stuff. After 6 years of drinking, I took time off, or I went back into it. After 6 years of not drinking, I tried drinking again. Instant inflammation, even once or twice a week. Brain fog, it just destructs your body. Your liver gets all messed up. Once again, going back to the 70-30 rule. If you're eating for fight camp or peak week, you have to do something called reverse dieting. So after 75 hard or whatever program you're doing, don't just binge. Like, you have to train your brain to know that, yes, I'm excited to have this thing, but no, you're not excited just to have it. It's a combination of mouth pleasure and dopamine hits. So your brain is trying to find something in those food groups that it knows is going to send a signal to your brain. So it's not just like, oh, I want this because I'm thinking about getting it after this, is a birria pizza. But it's letting you know, like, that it's just a signal to your brain saying, hey, I want this dopamine again. So it's more of a dopamine habit. So if you can, so for me, it's slowly developing. It took time, years to develop the awareness of how bad I could feel if I ate the junk. So and then you realize you want the mouth pleasure, but you don't want that sitting in your stomach because it doesn't make you feel good. So the more you can train your brain to treating yourself to health instead of Little Debbie's or, JCW's or Carl's Jr. every day, I think that's what helped me the most.
What's something you used to eat religiously that you'd never recommend now?
Something I used to eat religiously. I used to eat Taco Bell like every week when I was in my teens and 20s, back in the low budget days when I'd save up $5. The cheesy bean and rice burritos with extra nacho cheese. That was my jam. Me and my a shout out to Joe Zucker, or we call him Hobie. Me and him we'd go in his little single cab. Him or Sean or Bones, as we called him growing up. They both had single cab Toyota pickups, and we'd drive over to the drive-through window and we load up. We just get like 3 or 4 of those. So that's the one that comes to mind the most. I'm trying to think of what else that I miss, because I can still have pizza, but I won't eat Little Caesars or anything like that. Yeah, we're gonna go with cheesy bean and rice burritos. Definitely don't do those anymore. But I still make alternatives, and leaning into that, you can make alternatives that are healthier that taste similar. If you can talk yourself into it, things are way healthier. Like today, we had some pretty freaking good steak and egg breakfast burritos. That was from shout out Fuel Kitchen. Those are pretty good. But yeah, it's getting yourself far enough away from the idea of that severe dopamine hit. The flavor profiles on unhealthy food are less tasty the longer you are away from them.
What current fitness or nutrition trend do you think is doing more harm than good?
I'm going to get punched in the face for this one. But boutique style gyms and cardio like CrossFit and all these things done with the wrong intentions and not eating enough. So I used to work with Orange Theory, so I understand in Oregon. So a big one. So I'd say most things that you can overdo and you don't understand where the limitation should be. So anything, if you're on a low calorie diet and you are not a high level athlete and you're running like any of these boutique style gyms, you're doing HIIT cardio every day. You're not eating enough. You're not drinking enough water. You don't have enough calories or electrolytes like we've been talking about throughout this. People are burning their nervous system out. They're messing up their hormones and they're chasing this dragon we've been talking about. And I've been on both sides of that. I used to over stress my body every day and more caffeine. And then you just feel like shit. You're not sleeping well, but you keep going to those classes to get the 8-pack instead of the 6-pack, or to get into the shape like Debbie from down the street. But yeah, so I think these boutique style gyms and having coaches that are good, but don't have the skill and necessary knowledge or choice of knowledge to help people navigate to make sure they're eating enough for their workouts. And then also having the mobility and function. Because if you have these people doing these hour-and-a-half long or hour-long classes and they don't do any kind of mobility or accessory work after that, it's going to eventually be catastrophic. You're going to be stacking a lot of things together that should be healthy, but doing too much of a good thing can be a bad thing too. So I would just say if you're going to these Orange Theory classes and you're chasing the feeling, but you feel like shit afterwards, and you're always just chasing that feeling in there, maybe take a day or 2 off and do something slower like yoga. And then have some sort of trackable wearable device, so then you actually know how many calories you're burning. But yeah, boutique style gyms are one that I've seen firsthand that I'm like, oh my gosh, there's this lady, she's probably in her 60s. She was only eating 1,500 calories a day, and she was probably burning 800 calories in the class. And it was like 9, 10 a.m. And she had all day still. Your calories don't reset when you go to sleep. So you're either eating too much a day, which hypothetically 3,500 grams, 3,500 calories per day that goes unburned, so you don't use it as fuel, can turn into a pound of fat, hypothetically. But on the other side of the fence, if you are burning 2,500 calories a day and you're only eating 15, those calories don't recreate themselves the next day. You don't factory reset. Like that's 1,000 calories every day that you're under eating. So that's 7,000 calories at the end of the week. And you're retaining fat now because your body's in survival mode and you're not burning, your metabolism's all jacked up. So all these can be catastrophic for an individual. But regardless, if you're in the classes, good job and way to try. So I'm not trying to hate on what you're doing, but as you get deeper and deeper into fitness, there's knowledge out there to understand it at a deeper level. So if you're burning calories, I always say just stay below maintenance if you're trying to burn. And if you're trying to gain, just go into a little bit of a surplus. But getting off topic again a little bit.
Why do you think people are so easily influenced by those quick fix health solutions?
Because we're in a culture of people that want to cut as many corners as possible. And nowadays, they don't even want to look up anything. They want to ask creators and different people in comments instead of doing the research themselves. Because our society is turning into a bullet train society to where we're trying to get everywhere as fast as possible with the least amount of steps. That's in my opinion.
How do you filter out the noise when there's so much conflicting advice online?
You got to go back to the keep it simple, stupid. If you find something that works, you can't afford a coach or you can't afford a professional that's going to get you to the next level. Find somebody that I wouldn't say idolize, but somebody you look up to and understand what they're doing and what they recommend not to do. But if it's like one of these bodybuilders that's like 300 pounds, just be careful. But yeah, I would say the biggest things are just keeping it very simple and not overcomplicating things. Because there's been plenty of years where I downloaded too much data, did too many different types of workouts, went too many different directions. And what happens is I slowly circle back again to what worked before. So just slowly create a blueprint for yourself or have somebody help you create one. So then you don't have to make all the mistakes that us fitness professionals, you could call us, have done. So yeah, just the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. Go to the gym, do 5 basic movement patterns, try to eat a little healthier, whole foods, and hydrate and sleep.
Here's a loaded one for you. Do you think social media has improved or damaged people's understanding of health?
I think it should be a bell curve. Without social media and the internet, we would just have what Big Sugar and these different big companies were pushing. We wouldn't be able to see the knees over toe guy. We wouldn't be able to see, and if we're counting YouTube as social media, although there's a lot of bullshit. And even what gets me, and I used to be one of these people, even in this podcast a little bit, I guess I'm being a little hypocritical. Not only is there too much information, but everybody's hating on everybody constantly. I don't think there is any wrong way to train. There's just wrong implement. What's the word I'm looking for?
Implementation?
Yeah, implementation or lack of knowledge and preparation. It's the methodology and the philosophy behind it that I think can get convoluted. It's not so much that there's a right or wrong. It's there's ways to approach certain things, and with everything out there, everybody's trying to be the voice of reason. Everybody's trying to do this, or this person's wrong, this person's right. This is the new data. This is the new trend. So I'm hoping it's a bell curve. Although we have a lot of nonsense and there's a lot of snakes in this weeded grass, and it's hard to find sustenance sometimes. Maybe don't listen to 15,000 influencers, pick 3.
Okay, with all these biohacks and trends, what's like one of those biohacks or trendy things that you tried that you didn't think was worth it?
So let's see. I'm starting to think it's nicotine, but I would say some of the biggest ones that I realized weren't worth it to me. Really cold plunges, to be honest. Like for women, I don't think they're the best. Like you shouldn't go below 55 degrees. The longer and the colder I was in there, don't get me wrong, cold shock therapy is great, but it's not everything. So for me, the biohacking things that are a little wild, and I actually have an interesting theory for men that are biohackers. I always wonder what percentage of them are just trying to get their dick bigger and they fell into this. Because for some reason, there's a large amount of these biohackers that are usually Caucasian men, and they are always trying to get their dick bigger. But aside from that is like, so some of the things I love the most are going to be the ARC bed, the ARRC bed. So it's a light spectrum bed. If you don't have that option, it gets deep in the weeds. But PEMF, pulse electronic magnetic frequency beds, those are huge. Those are really great. Some of the ones that I don't think you necessarily need the way it is, I honestly think testosterone, like the TRT replacement, There are ways that people could do it without having to cut the corner. Do I think it's necessary to have higher testosterone as a man, even in a woman, to balance out your levels and to get your sex drive back in your 40s and 50s? Yeah, I think it's great. And if you don't want to take the steps, then don't. But the biohacking, I think, is all the injectables. I think peptides are very meaningful, but kids under 18 to 25 don't necessarily need to be taking them. Can mess with your endocrine system. Even something healthy, low dose. So for me, the biggest ones I think are overdoing and overcomplicating things. Like, cause I know people that have like 10, 15 different pieces of biohacking equipment. For one, they're expensive. And for two, there are more holistic free ways to go about some of these things. But yeah, I think that TRT is overrated. You can get there naturally in the right aspects if you want to decrease caffeine intake and work on sleep and balancing out your vitamin and mineral deficiencies. One thing that I think is underutilized out there is getting full panel blood tests and working with a practitioner. Or you could put it in AI technically, but you didn't hear that from me.
How important is learning your own body versus following a structured plan?
I've followed all the structured plans, but at the same time, I have an interesting viewpoint on structured workouts. Like, even though if they're the best workouts, sometimes they don't necessarily work for your body. Like if you're not working with a coach one-on-one, there might be something missing. You might have an anterior pelvic tilt. You might have a weak core. You have a really good program, but it's a general program and it's not catered to you. You can cause more injuries later on. So for me, I always train from an aspect for clients. I'll do assessments on them and I'll test their bodies. So I work from the feet up. Shout out to Vivo Barefoot. I wear wide toe box shoes. And let's see if I can do this without punching this into my face. So I wear wide toe box shoes. So the biggest part of it's the only feet. So I wear toe socks, and I used to not have like strong feet because of shit kickers, cowboy boots, and skate shoes. A combination of all of those. So I didn't have, one of my arches was collapsing from striking, skateboarding, and then my toes didn't move the way they should. You can ask a little kid to move their toes and they can move their pinky toe by itself. So you can have a great program, but if your body's not functioning properly, it will work, but it's only going to work at like 50% of the capacity it could because you don't know how to move your body properly. So when I talk about training from the nervous system out to your appendages and to your fingertips, it's recalibrating your body to where you can ignite every muscle group. One of the reasons why I can move and look the way I do, on top of been training since I was like 16, is I've learned how to be able to relax muscles and be able to learn how to activate different muscle groups. And that's been over time, trials and tribulations. And once you start working on one, you have three other things that you potentially could work on. But yeah, so I would say learn how to move your body first, like balance and grip strength and like proper core training and thoracic rotation, walking, crawling. Like once you can start navigating these, unless you're really heavy or you're handicapped, there are variables there if you're not functioning. So there's steps that you could take to get into that realm. But I am a firm believer in learning how to move your body well and adapting the muscle growth afterwards.
What signals from your body do you pay attention to now that you like used to ignore before?
Pain. I just push through the pain every time. Hit the ground, get back up. Now being 37, although I don't feel 37, there are mornings and days and stuff, like especially with now, I have a vertebrae that's displaced in my neck, a bulging disc, and it tightens up basically without getting into anatomy, it tightens up the muscle groups that run horizontal and vertical that are around the upper vertebrae near my neck. So those are displaced and pushed out. So for me, I would have just trained more jujitsu, trained striking, and just hope for the best in my 20s and teens. Now I pay attention to what the pain's coming from and why. Because usually if you have pain in your knee, it has to do with your hip, your back, or even your shoulder, your feet. So for me, I address the issue, figure out why the symptom's happening, and address the system. and navigate through there. But yeah, for me, I used to work through the pain, work through the tiredness, and now I'm leaning more into the realm of recovery.
How do you adjust your training and nutrition when life gets really stressful?
So if life is stressful, especially if you live in a place like Utah where you have less sun, so for me, I'll go to like a tanning or sun ray bed to help with seasonal depression. I will eat more purple sweet potatoes because they can help upregulate your natural dopamine levels. I'll spend more time on these PEMF beds or grounding in dirt barefoot. But I would say a lot of people tend to have food comfort blankets. So just be mindful when you get more stressed out. If you get the craving of sugar and carbs, easy ways to keep a food journal or a journal in general, and then track in what you ate and what your cravings were. You could do a craving journal or just pay attention to what those are. Write them down in your phone. Because usually your brain can't just say, hey, the reason I want a donut today is because you slept 3 hours yesterday and we're not producing enough dopamine today. But instead, it's going to be like, hey, dude, you should get pizza, donut, and beer. You should get a donut in the morning. We should get pizza at lunch. And then we should get a 12-pack of some heavy hitters after work, and we'll feel better. It's just because that is what force produces some of those neurochemicals and wrecks your gut. So adjusting your training for high stress. So when you are stressed out, there are things like ashwagandha I'll take, and I won't put my body through the ringer. Like we were saying earlier in the podcast, I'll check the box, go to the gym, but I'll go lighter. There, you could burn calories slower. You could just hop on the treadmill. You can go for longer walks, pace them around meals if you can. It's a good way to walk. If you have your family, just walk around the block, walk a couple blocks, go to the park. Do something that's going to be far less vigorous on the body, and just know that you're still moving forward. Because when your cortisol's higher, your metabolic system can be dysfunctioning, and your sleep's going to be impaired, and then you're always playing catch up and trying to chase that feeling in the gym or whatever it is you're doing, and that's gonna you're just burning the wick at both ends. So if you're super stressed, I wouldn't push yourself as hard in the gym. Take a break off the cold plunges, the saunas, and just prioritize sleep and a day of rest.
What does listening to your body actually mean in practice?
Listening to my body. I think the daily practice, if you can, stillness is one of the hardest things humans have. They identify with their thoughts and their brains. So if you can learn to sit with yourself. Another one that I like from Paul Chek is like, which is kind of out there, but he asked himself like how you feel. Like, so if you could tap into the feeling, like what does anger actually feel like to you? What is sadness? What is frustration? Like if you can navigate through those emotions or just sit and learn how to shut your mind off, even if it's just learning how to count numbers backwards, is a good way to start with stillness. And then the other one is like, I'll do like a dynamic warm up if we're talking about fitness, and I'll see how my body feels and I'll know where the tight spots are. And that way, so a dynamic warm up, your body's a hydraulic system. You have blood pumping everywhere. And to get blood to areas, you want to get yourself to the brink of sweat, whether it's like this, like a light assault bike, the treadmill, whatever it is, jumping jacks or whatever, something that, or rebounding, where you just like jump up and down lightly in place, or just walking back and forth will help, depending on your skill level or athleticism. But yeah, I would say just checking in, like first thing in the morning, give yourself that hour. If you feel stressed before you pound in caffeine or anything, always do electrolytes first thing in the morning, some water, maybe some lemon. But give yourself a check-in. Like if you can start developing like a checklist through your body and be like, okay, well, feel a little drained today. I'm already yawning. So maybe I got to wait an hour or two for the caffeine, even though I think I need it. And then once you get to the gym, say you're stretching out, you did a run 2 days ago with your the podcast director, and your legs are feeling a little dead. Maybe that sprint training day you'll hold off for a day or two. So just being able to move around a little bit and feel the little funkiness of what's going on in the body. Maybe utilize more stretching and mobility for those days. Or if you feel good in the morning, maybe that's the day you hit the hard workout. But if you feel taxed and drained, you can hit a softer workout.
So this is the last question. It's more how it's structured. The question is more like aimed at like other people, but I actually want to know like you specifically. At what point did fitness stop being something that you do and become like who you are?
So it's funny because I have like it is a lifestyle now. When people say like, "Oh man, your habits are good," I'm like, "No, they're not habits anymore. It's a lifestyle." I don't build my work. I don't build my fitness around my work schedule. I built my work around my fitness schedule because it means that much to me in my diet and nutrition. Like even today, me and Travis, I knew that I was like, man, we have a tendency of not eating in here, and it's hard. So we just bring some food in, it checks the box. But for me, I would say for me it was probably in my 20s moving out here. I worked out a lot, but it was like to look good for chicks and blah blah blah. It's be strong. But I was doing construction and stuff like that, and lots of heavy lifting and blue collared work. So I was always strong. Like from 14 on, I realized I was above average for strength. Yeah, so in my early 20s, when I moved to Utah, 2012, that's when I had like the real epiphany of, man, you put yourself through the ringer, so you have to like it's not a choice anymore that you have to develop this thing. And then as I was getting away from all the nasty food and stuff, I was like, oh my gosh, this is what good feels like. So the further you get away from the SAD, it's an acronym, SAD, the standard American diet, the more likely you are to start feeling better. And for me, that's when I realized that it's who I am now. But at the same time, sometimes I think about what happens if I was thinking about it today. So if you have a millionaire and they shut down the power grid, he's not a millionaire anymore. His money's gone. If for some reason his bank account got drained or her bank account, they're not a millionaire anymore. So who would I still be myself if I was ever a quadriplegic? And so for me, I don't. Although I appreciate my body and I have the capabilities of who I am, fitness is a huge part of who I am, but it's not me. So if you can take the mask off and you can lean into like who you are as a soul and a being rather than just like what you do and how you do it, I think that's a lot safer for your mental aspect of things. Take pride in who you are and what you've built. But fitness, although it's who I became, is a fitness professional, movement specialist. I like movement aficionado is my term that I like. But yeah, it is a big part of my life, but it's not everything. It does get you in the right direction. Something that most Americans will never feel is how to actually feel healthy and good because they choose not to do it. And you can't feel something that you've never experienced. So although I appreciate being an outlier and a top percent fitness individual and with my athleticism, my age, and my metabolic function and the way my cells produce and blah, blah, blah. But I realized too, if you absorb too much of that, you can also, if for some reason something happened, you're still you if you lose that version of yourself. So
Last one. This is more from me. So if flip the script on you here a little bit, say I'm someone who's just starting out on my fitness journey, or maybe I'm like stuck. I feel like I've, plateaued somewhere. What's 3 bits of advice you would tell that person that like, no matter where they're at in their fitness journey could get them to their next level?
for me, I always ask like, how's your sleep? How's your hydration? And what are your goals? So if we base it off of that, you're plateauing, but you're doing the same program or similar program. So although like you hear a lot more people talking about not like muscle confusion, all this stuff is kind of propaganda. I would say to change up what you're doing so you're not pissing on the same fire hydrant. So like if you're changing up your program, say if you're a bodybuilder, like I would put in more zone 2 cardio, running, things like that. But so I would just oversee what you're doing and then change it up, add a little spice in there, 30% of something else. And then just making sure your hydration's on point, your sleep's good, and then seeing what patterns are creating you to plateau and what dysfunctions or what's dysfunctioning or misfiring in your system. Like whether it's cause like if you look at sales or anything else, you have systems that are great and bad salesmen, but their systems are so good that they still sell. So that's an interesting analogy, but I'm using you specifically because you understand that. So it's whatever the symptom is, we got to figure out what's misfiring in the system. So for you or the listener, I would reassess the assessment. Or like for me, I would do an assessment on the individual. But from just like three basic things is I would say try out a different style of program. And then just make sure if you're just doing a certain type of workout to add a couple more things to spice things up. And then make sure that our nutrition is dialed in decently, and then hydration and sleep I've always addressed. So I guess that's 4 things. And then also learn how to contract your muscles rather than just go through reps. Because if a lot of people just go through the reps and they're only counting the reps, but the whole goal is to contract the muscle properly. So if you can slow things down and start working on muscle contraction over just like the body English of curls and squats and different things. So those would be my main recommendations for most people that ask those questions. And in closing, just remember that the biggest thing you should do is learn how to create a blueprint that's going to help you be successful. Try to get your ego out of the way, and try to listen to your heart and your soul. And those people you admire that you think you could never be, just learn. The difference between you and them is they decided to make the change to step into that realm and step into that arena. So if you see a goal that's unreachable on the other side of the canyon, it's called the Grand Canyon theory. You can't fixate on that final destination without learning how to develop your visual perspective of where the path goes. So to get to that other side, it isn't going to be making the perfect plan on this side. It's going to be building the blueprint as you go. So just remember to take one step in front of each other and just start the journey. There's no perfect day. There's no perfect time. Being ready isn't cultivated. It's a decision here. So there's no perfect day. Just remember, you gotta create the person by taking action, not planning out this year-long strategy and then never taking action. So have a great day, everybody. Thanks for listening. Remember to like, subscribe, share, follow, send these podcasts to your friends that you think that there might be some nuggets in here that they can take home and digest. So have a great day, everybody.